Kia ora, I'm Joe Tai from EOP Porirua. Since 2017, I've been teaching a range of EOG classes in NZCEL Level 1, 2, and preparation, both online and face-to-face. In this presentation, I'd like to focus on some challenges of a Zoom class compared to a face-to-face one and suggest some solutions from my experience. I'm going to separate these drawbacks in terms of skills. First, reading. It is harder for learners to read long text on their laptop or phone screen. Those using their phones might find the text too small. Also, as the text is shared, having to scroll up and down means slow readers might be left behind. One solution is to break down the reading into paragraphs, and each paragraph comes with a different task. For example, one part can be redesigned to be a read and reorder activity, and another part, a listening one, where an audio is played or the teacher reading out the text. Even reading itself can be alternated between independent reading or reading out loud, reading with or without time pressure. Another drawback is that the teacher might not know if the learners are actually reading, have finished, or are struggling with the reading. To deal with this, there are several ways that help learners more actively involved in the reading process. One way is to use time pressure. Give them questions and ask them to read a paragraph in 2 to 3 minutes to find the answers. Zoom group chat is a great tool to tackle the multi-levels issue. The quicker ones send their answers privately to the teacher, who checks them and feedbacks on what needs to be redone. This will buy the slower ones time to finish their reading, and they can have their answers checked later with the whole class. Individuals can be asked to read out the paragraphs while their peers listen. This is a great chance for the teacher to feedback on learners' pronunciation, explain key information, check learners' understanding, and summarize the text. Next, listening. Even though we make sure that we speak clearly and select high-quality audio files, what comes out on our learners' end is out of our control. The sound quality might vary depending on the device they use and whether they are wearing a headphone. There are ways to minimize this issue, such as remember to tick the share sound box on Zoom, ask learners to put on their headphones, or post the files or links on Google Classroom for self-practice. Similar to reading, it's hard to know whether the learners are struggling with the listening task. To tackle this, for questions that require short answers, a word, a number, or true or false, we can hold a race in the group chat to see who produces the fastest and correct answers. This will give us an idea of who's doing well and who's behind. It might not work with long answers, and it's not fair for slow typers. For long answers, we can ask individuals instead of the whole class. If we ask the whole class, those of higher levels or more confident will dominate, which makes the slower ones feel they are being ignored. Now, speaking, unlike in a face-to-face class where the teacher can be with one group and at the same time observe and overhear what's going on in other groups, Zoom breakout rooms do not allow this. To make sure they actually work, we can ask them to post comments under the topic in Google Classroom. Another issue is that Sometimes it's hard to understand the learners due to the low sound quality or not being able to read their lips. They can be asked to type the words, not the whole sentence, just the words they mean to say in the group chat. A mini whiteboard or an A4 paper could be more handy. It is faster and more natural to use, especially to the less technologically capable ones. The last skill, writing. When I first moved on to Zoom in 2020, being used to correcting my learners' writing on papers, I found it time-consuming and less efficient having to wait for my learners to send me their writing, correct it, and send it back. Then I realized that I should break down the writing task to writing sentences. We practiced the target structure, then everyone privately sends me their sentences in the group chat. I correct them, send back, and ask them to rewrite. The faster ones can write more sentences in the same allocated amount of time. Putting together these sentences to make a complete writing can be done as homework. For those who are happy to have their writing displayed, so the whole class can feedback and learn from their mistakes, I've share screen their writing. I have two photos here. The first photo is one of my learners' writing. It was shared on screen while I corrected the mistakes for everyone to see. There's a save function here to save the final writing, the final product after being corrected. And I'll send it back to the learner. The second photo is cut out from a group chat log. Now I'm going to demonstrate some of the tactics mentioned above in this lesson plan. It's a reading about New Zealand's Labor Day. You can find the reading here. It's for pre-intermediate to intermediate level learners. Depending on how you carry out the activities, it can spread from 2 to 4 hours. After the lesson, the learners will be able to read and understand the content, understand the target vocabulary, and talk about the topic using the target and vocab and grammar, the target vocab and grammar. Here's the reading. There's the vocab section, the reading, and exercises, and discussion questions. I use Quizlet to assist the pre-reading vocab section and breakout room for the discussion. In this presentation, I'd like to focus on the reading. This is a rather long reading, about 500 words. However, it's the length of an NZCA reading test, so I wrote this with the aim of familiarize my learners with this amount of input. As I said before, it might be hard to read the whole thing on screen, so I divided it into paragraphs. Each comes with a different task. The first paragraph was redesigned to be a reorder sentences activity, in which learners reorder events in Panel's life in the first part of his well-known story. The task ends with a question to elicit learners' guesses regarding what happened next in the story. Panel moved to New Zealand and was offered a job, and he demanded to only work 8 hours a day. Would the employer agree or disagree with this demand? Spoiler alert, he had to agree. That's how the 8-hour working day started. For the second paragraph, the learners are asked to read and choose the correct main idea in 5 minutes. Those who finish in time can send me their answers in the group chat. After 5 minutes of independent reading, 1 or 2 learners are asked to read the text out loud while everyone listens. I take this chance to correct pronunciation mistakes, draw attention to key information, check understanding, and summarize the content. I animated the whole reading and turned it into a YouTube video. This time is the listening activity. To help learners focus on the video, I asked them to just watch and not worry about answering the comprehension questions. They have read the first and remember they have read the first and second parts of the video before. So it shouldn't be too challenging for them to understand the whole video. The second time listening is when they're required to listen and quickly note down their answers. This is a crucial skill, not only in an NZCL listening test, but also in real life. For lower level learners who are not yet ready for this kind of training, the simultaneous listening and answering process can be replaced by a Kahoot quiz at the end of the video. For my class, I use the Kahoot quiz at the end of the class to help them review what they read before. Next, I would jazz up the boring true, false, not mentioned task with a mini game show style activity in which I read out the statements and the learners show their answers in front of their webcam. If there's time left, there'll be a wrap-up section in breakout rooms. The whole text and exercises are posted on Google Classroom as homework. This is a screenshot of my Kiwi Speak class last term. You can see from the icons. That this list includes assignments, a link to a Quizlet vocab set, and a reading attachment. The assignments come with deadlines, and I believe Google Classroom participants receive reminders about these deadlines. Now, at first, I didn't plan to talk about the advantages of an online class compared to a face-to-face one. However, to be fair to the online setup, I'd like to dedicate 5 minutes to talk about what can be done better online. For reading, with the text already shared on screen, it's quick and easy to highlight, take notes, and explain words with the help of online dictionaries and Google Image. After a listening activity, it's easy to share links or files, and it's more likely that the learner will click on them and self-study. In a face-to-face class, once the class ends, it might not be realistic to expect all of them to check their emails for self-study materials. Here are the links to the listening material I posted on Google Classroom for my Kiwi Speak class. With breakout room, people are more willing to talk to anyone in class, while in real life, they might tend to stick to the one next to them or someone who shares the same mother tongue. Also, it takes time to move around and some people just don't want to move. Mistakes are recorded and sent out during speaking practice. Group chat logs can be used for reflection, revision, or to teach target language points. For writing, once we're familiar with a certain preferred setup, it can be faster and more organized with the help of group chat, share screen, Google Classroom, etc. Some activity can be more visibly be done online, such as writing exhibitions and peer feedback. Before ending my presentation, I'd like us to have a discussion in breakout rooms regarding what we can add to our drawbacks, solutions, and advantages. To save time, we can have 5 groups, and each group will discuss a different topic as follows. Thank you, and please check out the Facebook group ESOL Teachers in New Zealand and my YouTube channel New in New Zealand, where I post materials related to the New Zealand context.